Northeastern's College of Professional Studies, in particular, fans of the Lowell Institute School. My name is Chris Cook, and I'm very excited today to be joined by two of my favorite people within CPS. I'm super excited to be joined by Dr. Stefany Breton and Dr. Mounira Morris. I would love to invite both to come in and introduce themselves.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. As you said, my name is Dr. Mounira Morris. I am the current director of the master's degree programs within the Graduate School of Education, which is part of CPS. Also a dissertation chair. So I chair at least 10 EDD students as they go through their academic journey. But before that, I have over 25 years experience working in student affairs. I worked in residence life, admissions, student activities, belonging back then type of work. And so I've done it for like over 25 years at various small liberal arts institutions throughout the US.
Awesome. And Dr. Breton, if you could do the same.
I echo Dr. Morris's gratitude for being here and being invited to this space. I'm Dr. Stefany Breton. I'm an adjunct here at CPS and also a graduate of the doctoral program. So I'm bringing a lot of pride into this space. For CPS is certainly a sacred place for me in my growth professionally. I've also been in the K-12 sector for over 13 years, which is a little crazy to think about, but I've kind of been across roles as a teacher, a school leader. I've worked in state policy here in Massachusetts, and now I'm at a nonprofit doing national policy work. I'm just really grateful for this conversation and look forward to digging in.
And Dr. Morris, Dr. Breton, I more casually know you as both Stefany and Mounira. So for the purpose of podcast world or whatever this is, we're going to go to first names. I think also acknowledging in the higher ed space, this is an effort to humanize the folks as we talk about mentoring. And so we're going to go first names from here and appreciate your flexibility with that. So one of the purposes of the College of Professional Studies is to connect into the roots of what Northeastern University was in 1898 when it was founded, which was supporting the people of Boston to have access to education, to uplift themselves into careers where they have a real chance to find a career and meaning and life sustaining wages. And that the College of Professional Studies, we do that in our bachelor's completion portfolio. We do that in our partnership with folks in the GSE as they look to have that kind of impact on other people in the world. And so want to bring us to that conversation a little bit. Why does the mission of CPS resonate so much with you? And in your own personal work, how do you live this out on a day-to-day basis?
So for me, when I think about CPS, I immediately think about diversity, especially in relation to adult learners. And so for me, knowing that adult learners bring so much diversity to the classroom space, whether it is online, whether it is on ground. As someone who's actually from Boston, I'm actually a Northeastern alum. I should have said that in the beginning, Northeastern alum. I'm actually a double Husky. This work, this mission is personal to me. I want them to feel validated. I want them to feel heard. I want them to be seen. And so with being part of CPS, is again, someone who strives to make sure our students feel like they belong. All that they bring to this space is important. And I'll talk a little bit more about culturally responsive mentoring later on. But when I think about CPS, I have an opportunity to really bring that interest to the space when I work with various students.
I love that. I have to echo this deep sense of work in CPS. And I would think more importantly, how that connects to the real world. My time in CPS as a student, but now also as a faculty member, continues to bridge this beautiful gap between what it means to show up fully human in who you are and find ways to contribute back to the communities around you through the work that you're already doing. That was one of the things that really drew me to CPS when I was thinking about where I wanted to plant my seeds and start to grow this part of me. And CPS really stood out as a place that I could just come and be my authentic self, but also knowing that I could bring the communities that I cared about, and there will be a place for those communities as well. And so I've really been able to carry that with me, not only in my work outside of CPS, like really thinking about what it means to lift up voices, more specifically, like in the policy space, but also with the students that I'm working with now as a faculty member. Is full circle for me to be able to create those opportunities for them to not only recognize their gifts, but also be able to bridge those gifts with the communities that they also care about, and learn like what it means to make change in the real world with things constantly changing. And
so a word that we've leaned toward a little bit so far is mentoring, and I want to lean into that a little bit more. Fun on this call is we have multiple Northeastern alum. I was an undergrad alum. Mounira was an undergrad alum. Stefany is a doctoral alum. I am in the doctoral program, following on the heels, getting support from both Mounira and Stefany in various ways. Stefany and I have a prior professional connection whereby she might not know this, but she was certainly a mentor of mine. And I think hopefully I did some mentoring back to her in that space as well. So I'm excited about jumping into this next conversation. Obviously, you both have accomplished a lot in your careers as practitioners and as researchers and as leaders, and excited about continuing to be connected with you all over time. However, I'm a little bit curious on how has mentoring played an important role in your pathway as a person, as a educator, as a researcher, and how has that mentoring, sharpened your focus on who you are and what you believe you can contribute in the world? So Mounira, if you could jump in and talk a little bit about why mentoring, and if you can weave in a little bit about your sorority and the mentoring that I'm sure happens there too, great.
Talk about this sweater real quick. I am part of a sorority, a historically Black sorority, Semi-General Sorority Incorporated. Been a member for over 30 years. And so there's a lot of mentoring that happens in my organization, definitely informally. But for me, not only I'm mentoring my younger sorors, my younger sisters, but mentoring other women in other organizations. For me, it's not about what colors we wear, it's what can we do together collectively, and how can we support each other. So that type of work is very important to me as well. Mentoring plays an integral role, a major role in not only in my career, but also when I was a student at Northeastern. I remember, and I will call him out, my former dean at Northeastern, Dean Keith Motley, who really inspired me to think about the field of higher education, and someone who saw me who I am, a Black woman from Boston, and I was able to kind of, Stefany mentioned, my authentic self. I was not invisible to him. He validated who I am and what I can bring to the table, and did not have this deficit way of thinking, right? It was definitely asset-based way of thinking. So I carried that throughout my time when I was an undergrad, but also master's. When I was a doctoral student, my former supervisor challenged me in a way that I've never been challenged this way with a supervisor, the way Darius Burton challenged me when I used to work in residence life. But again, he understood me, he saw me and my identity, and was able to encourage me to think of ways to progress, advance in the field. I was a full-time employee, but I also was a doctoral student at the same time. And so one of my committee members, Dr. Alex Deschamps, when I took her class on Black feminist theory, I said to her immediately, you have to be on my committee. Like, I need you. And she was so supportive, mentoring me throughout this process, heard me, will correct me, right? Gave me constructive feedback, but in a way that was so supportive. She was my cheerleader. And so, now someone who is now in this field, serving as a chair, for me, it's hard for me to pull apart advising, chairing / mentoring. For me, they go hand in hand. When I work with my doctoral students in the very beginning of the relationship, I want to know who they are. Yeah, we could talk about the problem of practice. We could talk about your research topic. We could talk about all the things that help you get right to the finish line. But I want to know who you are as a person. I want to know about your whole self. And so from that interaction, moving on throughout the process, for me, it's, yes, checking on them about their work, but also checking on them as human beings. Because we know that has an impact on persistence, right? I mentored now for what I learned when I was a mentee, when I was a student, when I was much younger. And so I bring that, and I bring my whole self to the table as well, even as a mentor, even as a chair.
I'm feeling a range of emotions because I am on this call with two of the most pivotal mentors in my personal and professional career and journey. And it is almost divine when I think about the kind of like dichotomy of the stages of my life where each of you came in my life and mentored me. So I'm going to be speaking directly to you because I don't think, as my mom always says, give people their flowers while they're here. And I think that this conversation is allowing me to really offer you both as really key and instrumental mentors in my life, those flowers really directly. So I'll first start off with you, Chris, because I came into the K-12 education space doe-eyed and not knowing what the heck I was doing. I got planted in front of ninth graders teaching English, and really, I would say, afraid of having like a group of 30 young people's futures in my hands. And I remember, Chris, you came in as the principal my first year of teaching. And when you came in, you were very clear about what you wanted to see, how we were going to be moving needles. And I think that the phrase at the time was, you came in hot. And we were like, who is this man coming in here telling us like what we're going to do, how we're going to do it? And I just can't thank you enough for the way that you showed up in that space as a leader and as a mentor to me, because there were two really critical things that I learned from you under your leadership and under your mentorship. And I will say that the first thing is, what does it mean to fully embrace who you are, your story, and use that as gifts to help you contribute and give back to the community that you are in. I don't know if you remember this, but you started this series at the school called Why I Teach. And each of us as educators really brought our vulnerability and our full selves to the space to show that to our students, but show it to other staff members. And that was a way for me to really realize that I have something really valuable to give. It might not look like the next person. It might not look like, what I think when you open up like Doug Lamov and you teach like a champion and you find all the pedagogical things in a book. You really brought out the practice of me and the gift of me and really built my confidence as a teacher, but then also kind of gave me the stepping stones to become a leader. I found a leader within myself so that I could then translate that into my community in a real tangible way. And I'll be forever indebted to you for that. You modeled what it meant to lead with love. And sorry.
Well, no, Stefany, I'm going to jump in once because I'm getting a little emotional on this too.
Yeah.
I didn't invite you to give me flowers, and that kind of probably runs consistent with what I'm going to say next. Funny because I understand the importance. Mounira is talking about getting to know the person. And I understand deeply about what that can then translate in when you do that for the person you're going to mentor. And so why it was so important on that Why I Teach series was as much about you and your ability to kind of transform as a person. Though I will say from the first moment I saw you as a prospective teacher at Boston Prep, I was like, and we have a star, let's go for it. So it was a selfish way of saying, this is how you unlock like all of your potential. And in doing that, you translate to all of your students, like, no, we're going to open ourselves so that you can open yourselves to us. And I can remember the Why I Teach series, and like for those of you who weren't in the school cafeteria with us, we would run a community meeting each week, and in front of 250 high school students, a teacher would have to stand up and have like a 3 to 5 minute Why I Teach, and they could do it in song or poem or presentation. And it was that year was an important year because the school had struggled a little bit with its connection with each other, and this was a beautiful way. And so Stefany was an early presenter in that space, so thank you. You were going to go though into also talking about Mounira. So I imagine there's actually maybe some deeper resonance that you're going to share. So I want to come back to that and give you a chance to have taken a breath and now move into that. And good luck now over the next few minutes as you do this.
Yes, I know. So when I think about sort of this second phase of mentorship with you, Mounira, for those of you who don't know, Mounira was my chair and she was my mentor throughout me getting my doctoral degree. And I remember coming into Northeastern, especially with the topic that I wanted to explore, which was really around improving the experiences of Black women leaders in urban schools. I remember coming in and feeling a bit intimidated in this program because I didn't know if there would be a soft place to land for my research and what it is that I wanted to do, just because you know the context that sometimes exists in higher education spaces where there's this elitism and there's sort of a shutting down of diverse stories and perspectives. And so I very much carried that into my journey at Northeastern, but I was completely disarmed the moment that I got an opportunity to not only engage with the curriculum in CPS, but I also was able to be chaired and be mentored by you, Mounira. I remember when I came to you and I told you what my research was going to be, you were like, oh, girl, we got this. And the mentorship that you gave me was really important because I felt like you gave a nice balance between not only caring about me as a human, but also meeting the rigor and the knowledge building that was necessary for me to be able to thrive and succeed in a higher education space. I think sometimes when folks think about mentorship, they believe that it is just the warm, fuzzy connection, but there is a rigorous pushing in mentorship that elevates you to the next being or the next person that you're going to be. And I very much got that out of my mentorship with you, Mounira. One of the most pivotal moments is I was almost at the finish line, and I was having a very challenging time. My wife was going through cancer treatment, and I didn't think that I was going to be able to finish this program. And I said to you, I just can't write. I'm going to graduate next year. And I remember putting my second section in front of you and you were reading it over your tea or coffee, or whatever you had at the time. And I remember you telling me, you were like, Stefany, like, I believe in you. I'm going to bet on you. And we are scheduling your defense so that you can finish this year. And I'll never forget that moment because I think that's like the most special thing that you can have inside of a mentor relationship is they see something so beautiful and so fundamental inside of you that you can't oftentimes see yourself. And I very much got that in CPS, this full visibility of myself, even when I felt invisible or not worthy of it. And so I'm just very grateful and indebted to you for not only pushing me across the finish line, but also opening opportunities. I never thought I'd be teaching at Northeastern and giving back in this way or being in the higher education space. But that constant pouring into me and seeing me beyond what I was able to just see in the present, but see who I am and could be in the future. All of that sort of wrapped around me and brought me to this very powerful space that I'm in, so much so that I am now mentoring. I'm on 2 committees right now, and I am shepherding 2 Black women through their dissertations. And so the beautiful thing about mentorship is that it doesn't end. It's like, again, going back to this imagery of flowers, somebody gives you the flower, you build your bouquet, and then you're able to pass that bouquet on to the next person. And so I am just forever grateful, again, for the mentorship for both of you in these 2 stages of my life that has really set me up to be the mentor that I can only strive to be. And so mentorship has completely changed my life personally and professionally in like the best ways.
Stefany, first I just want to say thank you so much. Mentoring you advising you. Definitely a pleasure. I'm shocked that she's saying all this because it wasn't easy. Like I was, my expectations were real high of all my students, and to the day they still tease me about it. But Stefany, definitely, it's a pleasure even having you part of our team. I know our students are going to benefit for what you bring to the table.
I'm really appreciating the way in which you're talking about how mentoring in your life and the mentors in your life have helped position you in various ways. There's a chance that many students are watching this, maybe grad students, maybe bachelor's completion students. And so often when we're talking about mentoring as a professional or a seasoned professional or an accomplished professional, we can look back and be like, grateful that this mentor stepped into my life at this time. But what is often not like recognized is that a student plays a role in being open to mentoring that's really important. And so I like to ask this question, which is, what advice do you have for students to find a mentor or receive mentoring? Is a really under talked about part of this equation. Please jump in and offer some insights on that.
The first piece of advice that I would give to any student that is seeking a mentor or wanting to open themselves up to mentorship, I think you have to be very clear on what it is that you want for yourself and what it is that you want to get out of the experience that you're in. Taking the time to really establish that level of clarity first was something that was really important for me. I do remember early in my professional career, I didn't have this knowledge about who I wanted to be, what I wanted, where I wanted to go. And so I either became very intimidated and backed away from networking opportunities and kind of, I think, closed myself off from the things that I could potentially have. And then other times I was just kind of moving from one person to the next without any set agenda or continuity that really helped develop me personally and professionally. And then once you form those connections, being very clear and specific with those people about what you hope to learn from them, what you hope to gain from them. And not just being clear, but actually being open and having a growth oriented spirit as well. If you are not positioned as yourself as a person to receive and grow, mentorship is not going to do a lot for you. So I don't like to talk about mentorship as this thing that you just kind of get and it just transforms your life. You're an active participant in sort of cycling through the stages of mentorship for it to be really beneficial.
I definitely agree with everything Stefany said. The only thing I would add is, when I started Northeastern, I'm first generation college student from a low income family. I did not have individuals in my family who would help me. I call it this cultural navigator, right? Like they could not help me figure out college because they did not attend college. And so for me, there was, at the time, and still is, there's so many opportunities for students to join those organizations, attend programs, events where, you have no idea what can happen organically. Right. And so if I didn't have Dean Motley to really encourage me to attend these type of events, I would not have had the mentoring that I had received when I was an undergrad. So sometimes entering to new space can be scary. Like, I just want to be honest with you, but really taking that time to figure out who you are, what are you interested in. And so I just think that really taking advantage of the opportunities that we offer at CPS, offer at Northeastern, can also play a major role in establishing the type of relationships and finding those mentors, whether it's informal mentors or even have a formal mentors. Because here's the thing, we as mentors can definitely share our experience with you. You can learn from us, but we can also learn from you. It's a two-way street. So just keep that in mind as well, that we can learn so much from our students in these mentoring relationships.
The other thing I want to just name is I hadn't really thought about why do people network? And obviously people network to find business transaction relationships. But in my networking experience, it's been finding relationships and mentors or serving as a mentor that have been the most impactful parts of networking. And then, of course, the business stuff flows from there afterwards. but to go into rooms to be like, can I listen to people? Can they listen to me? Is there an interest in getting to know each other? That is an orientation that I would push other folks to think about a lot as they step into this space.
I think this has been very important, a very important like learning experience throughout my trajectory in this space. And I would say more specifically as a Black woman in this education space, I came up against a lot of imposter syndrome and this idea that I didn't belong. And I was constantly placed in spaces, I think sometimes from a divine sense, but also from an intentional sense in which I sought out these spaces to remind me that I do belong. And I think being in spaces that really uplift this aspect of belonging is really, really important, not only for your professional development, but also like your personal development and really having this sense of worthiness and groundedness that is going to, I think, carry you wherever it is that you're going professionally. And I feel like I was really able to find that in CPS, and I'm able to create that for other students in CPS, this deep sense of belonging and really helping people know what their gifts are and how to utilize those gifts for the work that's important to them. So if it's any last thing I want to say is don't ever count yourself out, and know that you belong, know that there's a place for you, know that there's a place for your gifts, and know that, especially in this program within CPS, that there'll be somebody to hold those for you and help you hone them in a meaningful way to give back to the things that are into the work that's important to you.
I had to bring theory into this just a little bit. There's a theorist, Nancy Schlossberg, talks about mattering. Right. And so all throughout my experience as an undergrad, as a master's student, even as a doctoral student, and I carry now as a professional, my mentors made me feel that I mattered. So belonging definitely, but that I mattered to them, again, my whole self. And so bringing that and that philosophy, that strategy into my mentoring relationship, students know that they matter to me. It's more than just when you're going to submit your paper or your section 2. Hey, your mother had surgery last week. How is she doing? Hey, you're going up for this interview. I'm willing to do a mock interview with you, prepare you. Like, really want them to know that they matter. And for the students who are watching, listening to this, you matter to CPS. You matter to me as a practitioner. You matter to me as a faculty member. And I think that's important. In higher ed, we want students to feel that they belong, that their experiences are validated, and that they matter. They matter to the actual institution. And that's what I bring into my mentoring relationship with my students.
Beautiful. And I'm pretty comfortable ending with you both having the last words here. And thank you for making me feel honestly that I matter in your work together. I hope this message really matters to some folks who are listening and understand kind of the ways in which they can engage as a mentor or as a mentee, and hopefully be inspired as they move through the next challenge ahead of them, whatever that might be. 2026 is a wacky time. Hopefully folks are feeling inspired to go reach out a little bit and connect with others after this conversation. But everybody else, thanks so much for joining this version of Voices of CPS.